Hi, I'm Steph, and I've shared a lot about using an Oru kayak for about 3 years now and all the adventures I've had. Well, today I wanted to share about 3 of the kayaks that I've been able to use and tell you which one I think you should get. Now, the reason I'm a big fan of Oru kayaks is because they are folding kayaks, which means they're nice and light, so really easy to manage by myself, and they store up really nice. I can store them in the closet in my house. So those were the 2 reasons I looked into Oru kayaks, and the 2 reasons I keep coming back to Oru kayak. Now today we're going to try out 3 different kayaks, like I said. One is the Lake model, one is the Inlet model, and one is the Bay ST model. Now the first 2 models I own myself, and the third model, actually the marketing company for Oru Kayak sent me to try out. I don't own it, but I get to try it out, and I've had it for a couple months, and I've done a lot of kayaking with it, so I feel like I can share my thoughts on using it and what I think it's good for. Now you're going to notice some footage. I have a white Bay ST and a black Bay ST. And if you want to know why, you can watch this video right here and I'll explain it. But just so you know, they're the exact same kayaks, they're just different colors. Now before I get started, I do want to tell you a little bit about myself so you can keep that in mind when you hear my experiences, because yours might be different depending on your size and your age. So I am 38 years old, I'm about 140 pounds, I'm about 5 feet 4 inches, and I wear a size 9 shoe. So all of those things, to keep that in mind as I describe these kayaks, because your frame and things like that are a consideration when looking for a kayak. The way Oru Kayak describes these kayaks on their website is number 1, the Lake, our lightest, most portable base model. Number 2, the Inlet, the fan favorite, our perfect starter kayak. And 3, the Bay ST, versatile and sporty, built for speed and choppy water. Now I would say these are very accurate descriptions. When I bought the Oru Kayak, the Inlet was actually the base model, and that's probably why I think they call it the fan favorite, because it's been the base model longer than the Lake has been the base model. The Lake's only been out, I think, 2 years now, if 2 years, so I think that's why the Inlet's the fan favorite. But as we go along, you'll kind of see my thoughts on those 2 and which one to go with specifically. But let's start out with the price of these kayaks. So here's the price that these kayaks retail for. And I will say these prices are very comparable to the price you're going to pay for a kayak, any type of kayak. Now you can definitely get kayaks less than this. We actually own a hardshell kayak and we paid $250 for it, so definitely less than the base model of the Inlet. But I will say, everyone that's tried all my kayaks, their least favorite kayak is that hardshell kayak. That was the most inexpensive one that we owned. So I do think you get what you pay for. And really with Oru kayaks, you're paying for the portability and the convenience of storage. Now a big factor when picking out any kayak is the weight limit. So this weight limit is how much weight that kayak can hold. You don't want to be right at that max weight, because then you'll feel unstable in the kayak. Now you want to make sure your weight and the gear you're going to put in the kayak is not more or right at the limit of the kayak. And here are the length of these 3 kayaks. Now you can see that the first 2 are very similar, and the last one is actually a way longer kayak. And what that means is the longer the kayak, the better it tracks, the straighter it will stay, and usually the faster you can go. So I can say from my experience, this is very accurate. Now, I've heard people say that they have trouble keeping the Lake model straight. I haven't run into that issue. It does wobble a tiny bit, but it's really not an issue. They do make a skeg that you can actually put on the bottom of the kayak to help keep it straight better, but I haven't needed that because I haven't really had that issue. Now I will say the Bay ST is beautiful on the water. It cuts through the water so nicely because of that length, and also it's a narrower boat, so it fits basically almost like you're wearing it. It's almost part of you when you are in the Bay ST model, and it definitely paddles very straight and it is very fast. Next, let's look at assembly time. So this is something to definitely consider. How long is it going to take you to get on the water? Now, I was definitely hesitant with the Bay ST. I thought, oh, this is going to take forever to put together, but I've been pleasantly surprised. It does take about 5 to 10 minutes to put it together, but everything is very straightforward. There's nothing that's really guesswork. I mean, the first couple times I put it together, I was like, wait, let me get the right order. But once you put it together a handful of times, it's really just second nature, and it's very easy, and it doesn't take so much effort that once you get on the water you're tired from putting together your kayak. So I would say these assembly times are very accurate. The Lake does take the least amount of time because there's the least amount of parts with it, but really putting any of these together is not a ton of effort, and it's actually a little bit more time to put it back in the box, and that's only because it's dirty after you kayak and you want to make sure you clean it before you put it back. So that's the only thing that takes more time, but it's just as easy to disassemble and put it back in the box, just got to clean it. So like I mentioned, the two biggest things with these kayaks is the storage and the portability. Now, the BST weighs the most and on its own. And I will say at 26 pounds, that's really not too hard to manage. I'm able to manage it all on my own, no problem. It is a little bit bigger, so the box is bigger. It's a little bit more cumbersome, but it's not hard to hold the box. Same thing with the other two Orus. Obviously, they get even lighter. It's even easier. But I would like to show you that I have a Mini Cooper Clubman, and all three of these kayaks fit in that car. Now I will say I wouldn't be able to fit too much other stuff in the car, all the extra gear and things you need, but you can see it does fit 3 kayaks, so that's pretty impressive. Now another big factor to consider is the type of water that you're going to kayak on. Now these kayaks are described as so. The first two are for calm water only, and then the BST is for calm water and choppy water, which is going to lead you to more ocean type water. Now, I have kayaked in so many different types of water, in lakes, in rivers, and swamps, in oceans, lots of different places. And the biggest thing that I see is the BST is really perfect for big open water, especially ocean type water. And it's done a great job. I really enjoy kayaking with the BST on that type of water. You can go for really longer distance, longer types of paddles. Now, one of the things that I like to do is to kayak some rivers that are a little bit narrow and a little windy, and they have some trees and obstacles that you have to get over, which is called portaging. And I've done that with the lake and the inlet, and those do really well. It's actually nice to have a shorter boat in those situations because it's easier to maneuver around obstacles. And then when you have to get off your kayak and move it over an obstacle, it's pretty easy to do. Now I did try that with the BST just to see kind of what that experience would be like, and it worked, but it was not as fun as using the lake and the inlet. It was more of a challenge to get in and out of the kayak, and because it was so long, I got caught on a lot of things, and it was hard to just maneuver with it. It was not as easy as it is with the lake and the inlet. So it really depends on the type of water that you think you're going to kayak in. So if you think you're going to be doing just very simple paddles, you're not going to want to paddle a lot, you just want to enjoy the water, then the lake and the inlet are probably the kayaks to go with. If you're going to want to do longer paddles, more open water, then the BST is probably the way to go. So one thing I've noticed that is different between these models of kayaks is the type of life jacket. So in my experience for the lake and the inlet model, I really like a full back life jacket, this is the back of my life jacket here, the front, and you can see it has a full back. So this is what I like to use for the first two models of kayaks. Now for the BST, like I said, it feels like it's part of you. It's like one with you when you wear that, when you are in that kayak. And so for that, I actually like to have a high back life jacket. And this is a high back life jacket. Basically, the flotation's at the top, and then it has a mesh panel at the bottom. This one actually Oru makes. But NRS is the brand. It's NRS is not Oru's brand. It's just a very good brand of paddling gear. And this is the one that I would use for the BST. All right, now, which kayak should you get? That's the question of the hour, and that's what we're going to answer. Now, I do want to say Oru makes more than 3 folding kayaks. I have not tried the other kayaks. That's why I can't really speak to them. But these are the 3 that I've tried and have the most experience with. Alright, so we have the lake, inlet, and the BST. As you can see with all the things that I've kind of described, I've been saying the lake and the inlet. For most of these things, they work pretty much the same way. And from my experience, that is true. The lake and the inlet really perform almost exactly the same. I've had the inlet a little bit longer than the lake, and I use the inlet more. It's just because it's technically my kayak and the lake is my mom's kayak. That's why I got that one. But I've used both of them pretty heavily. And I've had 0 issues with the lake. Nothing has gone wrong on it. Nothing has broken. I have had some issues with the inlet. Some things I had to fix. My original one I had to send back because there were some issues with it. So I would say, in my experience, the lake performs really well. Almost the same as the inlet. It has less moving parts, less things to put together. So if I was new to kayaking and I just wanted to get a kayak to get on the water, I would go with the lake. I think it's a great option. It will get you on the water fast and just make you really enjoy your paddle, I feel. So I think the lake is the way to go. I honestly don't know where the inlet lives in the space of the lineup. I'm not sure who the inlet's for, honestly, because they have the lake. So if the lake, like I mentioned, your size is really going to determine which kayak you go with. So if the 250 limit on the lake is a little too close for you, then I would probably look at the Beach LT, which is a longer kayak and it holds more weight. So I wouldn't even look at the Inlet because it's only 275 is their weight limit. So I would probably, if you were concerned about the weight limit and the size of the lake, I would look at the Beach LT because it's bigger and it holds more weight. But should you get the Bay ST? Well, it is a fun kayak. If you are going to be kayaking for a long time in open water, I think the Bay ST is the way to go. Now, if you're going to be doing kayaking, we have to portage, and you are going to do more narrow waterways, then probably it's not a good option. But for bigger open water, the Bay ST is a lot of fun, and I've really enjoyed it. But I do feel like the lake and the Inlet are more versatile for me in the type of water that I kayak in. Oru does make more than the white color for kayaks. I personally love the white color. I think it looks great and it is the coolest option on the water. I kayak here in Florida pretty much exclusively, a little bit in Georgia, and I have kayaked with the black Bay ST, and it is noticeably hotter when kayaking in Florida, especially when you have the white one next to the black one. It is noticeably hotter. That's nothing. That is cool. If anything, that feels cool. This is significant. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. I can't, oh my gosh, that's so crazy. Oh man. This is definitely so warm to the touch. You could just physically feel it being hotter. So for me, I don't like the black kayak because of the heat. No matter what kayak you get, one of these, one of their other models, or even a different brand of kayaks, there's other things you have to get with your kayak. And so I want to quickly go over that because that's something to keep in mind when thinking about purchasing a kayak. Number one is you need a paddle. Most kayaks do not come with a paddle, or you mix a couple. I have those, but I also use a totally different paddle that I'm really happy with. I'll have links to everything that I use in the description. I'll have links to what Oru uses too if you want to make a purchase all in one place. But I will say the more money you pay for a paddle, the lighter the paddle is typically and the better experience you're going to have. So if you want to know more about paddles, I have a video right here where you can learn all about that. Number two is a PFD. You really have to have a PFD for safety. This is going to be your flotation device. If you fall out of the kayak, it's going to keep you floating. Depending on the kayak you get, you might want to choose a full back or high back. If you're getting an Oru kayak, I highly recommend the gel seat. So it comes with a typical seat, which is really not good at all. The gel seat, I've tried a couple different types, and the Oru gel seat really works the best and it fits the best within the kayak. If you're getting the lake base model, you want to get the footrest. I've kayaked without the footrest and it just is not as easy to do. So I would definitely say get the footrest. It helps you paddle a little bit more efficiently when you have your feet against that. You also might want to get a splash deck. So the splash deck for the two starter kayaks is basically just going to cover kind of your feet area, and it would keep you from getting some water from the paddle dripping on you. But for me, what I like about it is it keeps sun from getting on my legs, and in Florida, that is a must. So the splash deck is definitely something to consider. For the Bay ST, the splash deck is nice. I've only used it here in the summer in Florida, and it was too hot to have around me. It just made it even way too hot, but I can see it being a great option if you're going to do a lot of ocean kayaking to keep that water out, especially if it's cold outside so you don't get cold from the water. Now, safety gear is something you have to have when you're kayaking. In case something goes wrong, you have your gear with you. Number one is a whistle. Number two is float bags, and these go in the bow and stern of your kayak. And if you fall out of your kayak, this is going to keep water from fully filling up your kayak. So the float bags are just a good idea to have. And there's a different float bag for the lake model versus all the other models, so keep that in mind depending on what you purchase. You also want to get a bilge pump, and if you follow the kayak, there's going to get water in your kayak, and the pump will help you pump that water out. Also, a bilge sponge is good if you just have a little bit of water and you need to get that out, or that last bit of water once you fall out is great to have with you. Another safety thing is a paddle float. Now, this is something you put on your paddle and it will help assist you get back into your kayak. I actually use a foam one, but they also make inflatable ones, and so definitely have something with you for safety. And lastly, you want to look at a paddle leash. This is in case the paddle gets away from you, it falls in the water, it's not going to get too far away from your kayak. So those are the safety things I would definitely say get. I have a link to my website that has every single item I own for kayaking. So if you want to see every single thing, all the full list of safety and everything, you can check that link out. All of the links below are actually affiliate links, which means if you click on them and buy something, I get a small commission from from that purchase, and it's no extra money to you. So please consider doing that if you're interested in getting any of these things. And lastly, like I said, I don't work for Oru. They have not asked me to make any of these videos. I purchased the first 2 kayaks myself and just really love sharing my experiences with them, because when I first bought them, I was like, how are they going to hold up? And I wanted to share that. Well, I hope this was helpful in helping you decide what kayak to get, whether you get an Oru kayak or a different kayak. I just hope you kayak, because it's super fun and I love it, and I hope you love it too. So thanks for joining, and I hope you have a great day.